Dearest Queers, happy Monday, happy end of August, happy almost full moon in Pisces, which is coming up in a couple of days. I'm Doolin, healer and mentor. I work with queer and trans communities around feelings of loneliness and disconnection, helping them live their best relational lives and feel connected and seen, witnessed in their relationships, have all the relationships that they want. So I bring a trauma-informed lens and spiritual slant to my work. Thank you for joining me for the 10th episode of Dearest Queers today. This is a live series inspired by y'all's questions, the questions that you send me, asking about loneliness and disconnection. So today's question is, how do I get and give support in these hard or challenging times without having a partner or significant other? So to the asker of this question, I see you and I love you and I really appreciate this question. I appreciate you asking it because I think it resonates so deeply for many of us, for all of us. And that is because many of us have been raised in a society where like partnership or intimate relationship is really exalted. Like it's lifted up. It's the thing that like apparently all of us are striving for, and that there might be something wrong with us if we're single, whether that's by choice or not. And so I appreciate this question because we're going to like unpack the many layers of this a little bit. So there are a few different places I want to go. So let's like get into it. And first, I just really want to acknowledge your desire for an intimate partner of some kind. So I think that sometimes in this, like, you have to love yourself first before anyone else can love you, which I want to do a live sometime soon on, that whole idea. So, right, so, like, I feel like there's that message that's sort of permeating, like, self-help, self-empowerment, like, stuff. Like, you must love yourself before anyone else can love you, which, like, puts a lot of pressure on all of us to, like, get it done perfectly before anyone else can love us, which is just, like, a load, which is why I'm gonna do live on it soon. And then also I think specifically in like queer and trans communities, there's also this like too cool for school, like anything normative, right? So like, and I get it that like as a queer person in like as a non-normative person living in a normative world, that like there might be this urge or like default thing around like I can't want or desire or have or do anything that's like normative, even if that's like wanting a partner or like a significant other. So my point is this, is that you do you, like always, like first and foremost, and that if you desire a partner to have a significant other, then like own and love that desire for yourself, and like don't let anyone judge you out of that. Anyone. So that like it goes that the same that goes for anything else, right? So if you're monogamous or if you're single by choice or like living your best polyam life, like right on, like get it. And like I just said, I think that there's this pull in queer communities to like reject anything that's normative because like we are not normative, and so we're trying to navigate a normative world as a non-normative person. So like I don't know how to do anything normative then, right? But it's like it's okay to want a partner or monogamy or a family. These things that like are sort of like normative in society. So like if we desire a thing or not or don't because everyone else is doing it, or we're afraid of what others might think of us, or because we don't know if like we'll still be trans enough or queer enough, it's just like literally setting us up to be out of alignment with ourselves, and therefore we're living our lives for someone else and not for ourselves. And I don't know about you, but like I don't have time for that shit anymore. I feel like I'm too old for that. So our work is to unpack like which desires belong to us and which don't, and why. Like so I just like some I think a good question to like ask ourselves, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, why do I want what I want? Is it because it's what I desire, or because someone else told me I should desire it, or it is like it should be what I want? So these are always just like good questions to sort of like sit with. So first and foremost, like own your desire, and that is the thing that will like lead you back to yourself always, always, like back home here, owning that. And like, boo, if you want a relationship, like own that desire, like want it, and like hold that vision for yourself, and like gather people around you who will like celebrate and hold that vision with you. Super important. So just want to like acknowledge that. And then second, around this like need or desire for a partner or significant other at this time or in general, is that so I don't know if you know about the book called Together, which is it's about like the loneliness epidemic in the United States, but it's by a former U.S. surgeon. And so he talks about intimate and emotional loneliness as one of the three types of loneliness that we all experience, right? So is that, when we don't have relationships in our life where we feel most seen or witnessed or held, is that sense of like those relationships with like depth, and just like our witnessing and where our vulnerabilities can be seen, and like our tender spots are just like held with a lot of care. When we don't have a lot of those relationships in our lives, which often come through these like intimate partnerships, then we can like feel a sense of loneliness there. So again, the desire for this type of relationship, like where that emotional depth exists, where you're like sharing intimacies with a person, like it's absolutely reasonable and it's super necessary and like a necessary component in our life to us feeling connected. But like this is, so I want to like, so those two things, own your desire. Yes, we like need those really like depthful, intimate connections with people, and then I like want to divert us just like a little bit here. And just to state, which like many of you watching might like already know or understand, is that, you know, this like the heteronormative culture that we are raised in, which really, you know, I use the word like exalts or sort of lifts up this idea that like this one partner is the person that like should meet all of these intimate needs, and like that's where we give and get support from, like only. So we were like raised in that culture here, at least in the United States, in like white culture, or like European American culture. And so that like our one and only partner and like maybe a best friend or two, like those are the folks that's like sole provider of the type of connection for us. And like, and that's where I'm going to challenge us a little bit here. So like, I feel like the really simple answer to your question, to the asker, the person who asked this question, is about how to give and get support during these times without a partner or a significant other, is that there are so many ways for that to happen, like so many ways for that to happen. And yet so many of us like grew up with this model that like if we don't have that partner or significant other, then like it's all off the table and we're not going to get that from anywhere. And I don't know about you, but that just feels like in the meantime, like if we're single and like don't have a partner, like we're just like shit out of luck then, or what, you know? So the many different ways to get it. So we give and get that kind of support both to ourselves and then from our other relationships or friendships, right? So I know that it doesn't always feel that simple, especially because most of us were raised with these models, you know, in our immediate families, the media. We're just like inundated with these models of like, you know, primary partner, 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 partner. Like that's the, like we really orient towards that. That's like the encouragement. And so we haven't seen a lot of models for like the type of intimacy that we typically experience in those relationships, and that we're wanting, about how to experience that intimacy outside of those like intimate relationships. And so right. So I said own the desire about wanting a partner, which like absolutely, and I'll stand by that, like ongoing. And like if that isn't available right now for like whatever reason, for one reason or another, right now or in the future, whenever, like we need to seek and find support elsewhere then. And so like we certainly don't want to get into the habit of forcing or settling into a dating relationship that isn't a good fit for us just because we're wanting the comforts and intimacy that it brings. I mean, who here is guilty of that? I mean, like raise your hands. Okay, so me too. I just want to like state that I'm like not above any of this, and it's like there's a habit we like want to get out of because it's not good for us in any way to like settle for these things when the person or like relationship might not be a good match. So if we're without a partner right now or anytime like upcoming in the future, like what are ways that we can increase the types of emotional depth and intimacy we want to share with a partner? How can we increase that with ourselves or in our other relationships? And so, you know, also remembering, as I've like been talking about in the 9 weeks up to this episode 2, is that like ultimately, like we as ourselves, like we are the source of our love and connection and like the depth that we're looking for from another person. So while that person is not there, so we can either foster and nurture that with other folks who like fall outside of this like identity of a partner as we think of them, while we hold that vision for ourselves, and you know, how do we like nurture and feel those things with ourselves as well? So like I too like used to like heavily roll my eyes at the like you should date yourself thing because like it was the last thing I wanted to do. Like I didn't want to date myself. I wanted to like have a partner. I want to like date someone else. And so like that was the type of like closeness and intimacy that I was really craving. So I was like, back up with your like date myself. I don't want to do it. However, in my experience with that though, I think because that was sort of like where I was, and I like chose this intentional period of singleness because I was really trying to like orient inwards and like towards myself, is that like I guarantee that if you begin to enjoy the things that you want to do with a partner on your own, like taking yourself out for a meal, like you'll enjoy them even more when a partner does come along, or friends or whatever, because it's about the experiencing it with someone. Like you aren't looking externally to this person or to this event to get that like you get to experience it with someone instead of them giving you this like the feeling that comes along with that. So yeah, you aren't looking for as for that person to be your source of joy or connection or whatever. So my advice to you would be to like roll your eyes about dating yourself and like do it anyway. So an example from my, I told you that like I was all about the eye roll about it for a while. So one of my favorite things to do with like with an intimate partner or like someone that I'm dating is to like share food or like to go out to eat. Like when we were going out to eat before like pandemic times, and like especially around brunch, like I like love to eat brunch out. Like someone that I like am like feeling intimate with. So I also just said that I like spent a long period of time intentionally single as I was like doing some like inner work and orienting towards myself. So I committed to taking myself out to brunch once a month. So this was an experience that I knew that I enjoyed with other people, and I committed to doing the experience anyway with myself, and and to like eventually enjoy it. That was the like hashtag life goal about it, which was to like not only do the thing but eventually enjoy doing the thing by myself. And so at the beginning, like I fucking hated it. I hated it. It felt uncomfortable. I didn't want to do it. I like certainly was not enjoying myself. It did not feel the same as like showing up like with like eating brunch with a partner. I had all of these stories about what it meant that I was there by myself. I mean, I really was just like I had like a lot to like work through around what it meant about me being there, all these stories. So a lot of like feelings to work through around it, but I kept showing up for myself and like really committed to the practice of doing it because I like really wanted to enjoy my own company. I'd like heard of people like talking about this like dating oneself and that it was possible. And so that's like I was like I'm gonna do this, like, yeah, that's the way that I approach goals. So, and then, but like all sort of like jokes aside about it, my experience because I committed to it, and there was I've talked so many times like week after week about this like devotion to self and this like devotion to the practice of really like loving and caring for self is that like because I committed to the practice of it and to myself in that like my experience of it began to like slowly shift, like so much so that like my birthday 2 summers ago, like I had planned this whole like party, was gonna like do like a half day thing with folks, and I ended up canceling it because what I wanted to spend the time by myself. So I like took myself out to brunch, I like did this whole thing, and like that was like a few months into this experiment, but I could tell that things were sort of like shifting then. And then, I like in writing this, like preparing for today and like recollecting about these times out with myself, right before like everything went into lockdown in March. One of the last experiences I had of like eating, like enjoying a meal by myself out was like one of the most magical experiences I think I've ever had, like dining out. And I was like alone. But I had this like handful of beautiful interactions with other folks who were at the restaurant. And I like felt so connected to like spirit and source and these like strangers who just, like saw this book I was reading, which like initiated all these conversations. So it was this like real reflection for me. I just like had an absolute blast and like both enjoyed being with myself so much, but also just this like real deep realization that like even like being there solo and doing that, like how connected to I was like still so connected to other people. And so that felt like a real, not like a turning point, but just a realization where it's like, whoa, I started this practice, I don't know, like a year ago, and it was so hard at the beginning and it felt terrible and I didn't want to do it. And like, look where I ended up and like, look where I am and like how beautiful that like transformation and the like devotion to self, like, like where it landed me and like where I am. And so, yeah, I think that like I would like when I started out, I knew that like I wanted to like enjoy my own company, but like or like I think when we talk about self love, sometimes it's or self care, like what does that even mean, or like what does that look like? And I wasn't really sure at the beginning, and so like if you're listening to this right now and have some similar questions, like I just like invite you to get curious about that because I think that that's what I didn't know going into it what it would mean at the end, but I knew that it would feel different than like how crappy it felt to like show up in those moments initially, like with myself. I knew I didn't want to feel that, but like had no idea sort of like where I was going to end up. And then, this March, like there I was in like the midst of all of this magic, being like looking around, being like, holy shit, like this is a result of like the work that I've been doing and connecting to myself. And so also just to note though that like spending time alone and enjoying your company are not the same things. And so I feel like that's like a deeper topic for another time. But like just I don't know like if that like pings you in any way, just like chew on that a little bit. That like you know, because I for I like love spending time by myself and like have for a long time. But that is not the same as like I like feel a like thorough sense of like enjoyment and like care and like love for myself in those moments. Is very different. So just a heads up, just like gonna like split hairs a little bit there because that feels just important to say. So we've talked about connecting to yourself in the absence of a partner. And then my other question is this, right? Is that so how do you invest in and connect with your friendships or other relationships as sources of support in this time and always and beyond? So like the idea that having a partner during the pandemic would solve everything, so it would take away our loneliness, we would have all the support we need, like it's just untrue. Like it's untrue before the pandemic happened and it's still untrue. The terms have just changed a little bit in terms of like if we're going to do any virtual dating or how we connect to like friendships and support in this time as well. But this idea that like because we went into lockdown and like our loneliness increased that a partner would solve that, it's just untrue. So again, like in the heteronormative culture that most of us were raised in, like friendships like kind of always get a back seat. It's very like partner centric, it's very partner forward. And I think that like although queer communities like we've done a really good job of coming up with like alternative models of relating and networks and sort of like lateral, like a non-hierarchy, like relationship anarchy, like the whole like whatever. So we've done a good job because we've had this necessity of chosen family. We've like really needed to rewrite scripts around who's in our life, like who do we feel loved and supported by. Like there's still like even though that exists in queer community, like there still aren't a lot of good models for like what intimate friendship looks like, or this idea that we can like intimacy exists outside of partnership. And so because most of us like weren't raised in like non-normative family structures or like in society, so we're like still these models like they're generations of them in our bodies and like in our social learning. And so we're doing a lot of unlearning and relearning and imagining and like dreaming about what those possibilities might look like. So a question to you, the asker, to folks listening is like how can you get some of your intimate and emotional needs met in your other relationships? So like are there friends that you want to deepen your relationships with? And like do you think that's possible or not? Like when I ask you those questions, are you like, well, like so and so would want to do that, or like I don't know, like it would feel weird if I like called them up and like cried to them on the phone, like whatever comes up around that, like just like I feel curious about that. And if the friends in your life currently like don't share the desire for the level of intimacy that you want, like go and find some who do, because I guarantee you that they're out there. I guarantee that there are folks who want intimate friendships. And they're like also out there right now looking for you, like in this moment. So go find one another. Like let go of the folks who like don't want that, which is absolutely their right. Like again, all the way back to the beginning of the circling back, like you do you. Like what you want, great. But like if you want something different than what your friends want, then like find different friends. And I don't mean that in a like sort of harsh, like Aries moon cut and run kind of way, but like also kind of because you get to have what you desire and what you want. So name it and then like go after it. Like go seek it out. It is there. So like don't shift your desires to fit into the smallness of what someone else wants. If you all want different things, then like go have different things. So be really clear about like the type of closeness and intimacy that you want out of your friendships. Hold on to that vision, believe it to be possible, and don't settle for anything less. Period. And if you don't want intimate relationships outside of like a typical like partner structure, like okay, like I can roll with that. Here I've been like telling you to like you do you and all of this, but like the times that you're outside of relationship might feel pretty excruciating then, because you've only left yourself sort of like one model for what this can look like. And without any judgment, like I would encourage you to like unpack that a little bit or like do some examination about like why you're holding on so tightly to like intimacy and closeness need to look this one way. And even if that is your ideal and like what you want ultimately, like fantastic, hold that. And like in the meantime, are there ways that you can like get those needs for closeness and intimacy and support in these challenging times? Like what are other ways that you can get those met? Because it's possible and it's available to you. And that's what I want you to have while you're sort of like perhaps waiting like for a partner or partners to come in. So, to bring it all home, dear asker, I love that you want a significant other. Yes, own it. You deserve it. You can have it. And if for whatever reason that's not possible right now, like, how do you get and give this type of support that you're wanting, that you typically attribute to an intimate partnership? Like, how do you get that outside of actually having one then? Because it is available to you. So you nurture yourself in those ways, and you seek and develop that level of intimacy and connection in your other relationships. So if that idea of either connecting to yourself that way or outside of it, like with friendships in that way, that feels like sort of far out there, you have no idea what I'm talking about or what that might even mean, like, imagine it, like, reach out to me and let's talk about that. Let's talk about like what that actually feels like in our bodies and like how we like nurture and conjure that feeling. And so, like, although there are so many like beautiful things that can come as part of being part of an intimate relationship with someone else or someone else's, like, we can absolutely have those same experiences outside of the notions of traditional partnership. So like, why wait? Why wait? Like, why not allow ourselves all of the like love and intimacy and sexiness or like whatever things we want to experience like right now in this moment? Like, no more waiting. Like, stop waiting, because you deserve it right now. It's available to you right now. And like, while you're waiting for it to like come in like through a partner the way that you want it, like, get it elsewhere. You can have it. And so like, that is my charge to all of you today. So I'm going to shift topics a little bit. That's the end of the question there. So thank you for listening and for asking that. And at the end of last week, I said that I had a big announcement that I was making this week about an upcoming offering. And so I'm beyond excited to announce that starting the week of October 12th, I'm going to be offering what I'm calling trans mentoring circles. And they're going to be 5-week-long circles, max of four people per circle. They're going to be broken down by age group. The theme of the first round, the first 5 weeks that we're going to be doing in these mentoring circles is going to be on loneliness. And so like the purpose of these groups is to foster community and to gain support, to increase our self-awareness, to decrease loneliness and feelings of isolation, to like foster and nurture community. Is to like come together to talk about these things that are coming up, to like do some healing and reflection and growth in a group format. And so registration for those will open on Monday, September 14th, but the wait list is open right now. And so if you want to be added to the wait list, please send me a direct message with your email address. And so I will email you directly the registration link when it opens up on the 14th. If you have any questions about it, also please reach out. I'm going to put more information about this. If you're watching this on Facebook, I'll put it in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the video description. And if you're seeing this on my Instagram live, there will be a link in my bio so you can learn more information about these trans mentoring circles. So excited about them. They're going to be incredible place for community and connection and support. And so so email me if you want to get on the wait list for them. I'm going to be talking about them so much in the upcoming month and a half. And looping back to the topic today, if you know of someone who needs to hear this message about how to find and foster intimacy and connection outside of traditional partnership during this time, please share this with them. You can find me on Instagram at Doolin, YouTube channel at the same handle. You can subscribe to these videos. You'll get an announcement when they come up every Monday. Until next week, I love you all so much. You're doing a fantastic job. I'll talk to you soon.